In this edition of One American News Investigates, we look at Dominion voting systems and its role in the 2020 presidential elections. Glitches, errors, money trails to powerful Democrats. Dominion is just one of 3 major companies providing voting systems to America. But Dominion captured headlines when it was discovered it had glitched 6,000 votes, giving Biden a fraudulent win. This was not an isolated event. In 2016, Antrim County, Michigan affirmed its Republican loyalties by voting Trump 62%, beating Clinton by 4,000 votes. Fast forward 4 years, and Antrim County was shocked to find itself voting Joe Biden over Trump by 3,000 votes, a complete flip from the last presidential election. Something was very wrong. When the county set to work with a manual recount, they discovered a ghastly error. 6,000 Trump votes were accidentally tallied for Biden. RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel held a press conference noting a litany of irregularities in Michigan. But when it came to Antrim County, the irregularity was potentially much bigger in scale.
When they inquired with the clerk, they were told it was a software issue and it was corrected. But now we know that 47 counties use that same software.
It was certainly odd. Republicans wanted an investigation to ensure no more such mistakes happened elsewhere. However, Michigan's Democrat Secretary of State was quick to pronounce such concerns as ridiculous, immediately denouncing any suspicion of technical foul play. Quote, "The software did not cause a misallocation of votes. It was a result of user-human error." See? No need to investigate. After all, it's 2020 and software errors are impossible, right?
I'm here to tell you that the electronic voting machines Americans got to solve the problem of voting integrity, they turned out to be an awful idea.
One vote for McCain.
That's because people like me can hack them all too easily.
That was some professor out of Michigan back in 2018 in the New York Times. Ignore that. The system Michigan Democrats don't want Republicans to investigate? The system part of what DHS proclaimed, quote, the most secure in American history? Meet Dominion Voting Systems. A Canadian firm, Dominion is one of 3 companies providing 90% of America's voting systems. Dominion serves 28 U.S. states, including battlegrounds like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, all of Georgia, and Nevada. Incidentally, Michigan was not the only battleground state to experience problems with Dominion. Georgia went all in with Dominion, buying 30,000 machines installed across the state. Just 9 months before the general election, Georgia's Secretary of State boasted of his state's partnership with Dominion to install all these new machines.
Dominion and the Secretary of State's office worked very closely together on making sure we had the staff here to get these things put through.
A few months later, in Georgia's June primaries, Dominion proved to have a few hiccups. Don't take it from us. Here's PBS.
The poll pads took as long as 30 hours to download the voter database, displayed the wrong races, and would randomly shut down. And the power-hungry ballot marking devices blew circuit breakers in numerous locations. Poll workers, many of whom had no hands-on training because of the pandemic, were often befuddled by the new technology.
Indeed, even by the general election 5 months later, Georgia was still in trouble.
They have not certified the elections, including 2 of the most populous in the state, between technical issues.
Let's begin with Liza Lucas. She's live at Gwinnett County's elections office in Lawrenceville, where thousands of votes are in limbo because of a software issue.
There is an issue in Gwinnett County, as officials have told us, that 60,000 Gwinnett County ballots are in limbo after a software issue, and this is according to the communications director of Gwinnett County.
While all of this plays out before our eyes, Republicans demand investigations, but government officials demand we look away.
There have not been any evidence of anything that would undermine the validity of this election, and it's time to move forward.
Meanwhile, the Trump legal team under former New York Mayor and prosecutor Rudy Giuliani disagreed Antrim County put Dominion systems front and center. Now we must dig deeper.
Now we've got to look at how often did it break down in other parts of the state. And when you look back on the history of Dominion, which is a Canadian firm, it's made mistakes in Canadian elections similar to that.
The Trump legal team's Dominion wing is led by General Michael Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, who has long warned Americans the dangers of our election systems relying on foreign software. Mind you, no one is claiming that Dominion is solely responsible for the fiasco and the vote irregularities that defined the 2020 general election. But when we return, prepare to be stunned when you find out just how easy it is to manipulate votes through Dominion, why one major state deemed Dominion dangerously easy to hack, and how one hacker read the user guide flagging stunning questions for the feds. We'll be right back.
Methods of communication have changed throughout history with the advancement of technology. Since first declaring his candidacy in 2015, President Trump has relied on Twitter to share his thoughts directly with the American people. But the 45th president was not the first president to rely on the technology of the times to get his message out. Calvin Coolidge made the first presidential radio address in 1923, making his voice the most heard of any man in history. This was the first time people across the country could hear the president speak at the same time, all from the comfort of their own homes. A decade later, this evolved into Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chats, where the president could explain his policies with the feeling of a friendly conversation in the form of an evening radio broadcast. Television was still a very new technology in 1947, but that didn't stop Harry Truman from breaking ground as the first president to have a live televised address from the White House. This ushered in a new relationship between the White House and the media. Now, not only could Americans hear their president, they could see him as if they were in the very same room. The late 90s saw the rise of the internet, and Bill Clinton saw this as an opportunity to speak directly with citizens. Clinton held the first presidential web chat in 1999, giving anyone with an internet connection a chance to send questions to the president as the world watched live on TV. Calvin Coolidge believed speaking directly to the press was the best way to bypass Congress to speak with the people. By using Twitter, President Donald Trump modernized this idea for today's population. Like so many before him, President Trump is using the technology of the times, making sure his message is heard clearly and directly by Americans all over.
No voting system is perfect. Here are the heads of the top 3 voting systems telling Congress as much.
Is there any method of voting that's 100% secure?
No. No.
No. They go on to say their voting systems are mostly safe. But here's a Senate letter from December 2019 slamming these 3 companies. Election security experts have noted for years that our nation's election systems and infrastructure are under serious threat. The Senate letter then highlights how the top 3 voting systems, ES&S, Hart InterCivic, and Dominion voting systems, quote, have long skimped on security in favor of convenience, leaving voting systems across the country prone to security problems. The lawmakers who wrote this letter? None other than Senators Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Ron Wyden, and Congressman Mark Pocan, all Democrats. 1 year later, now that America is asking whether Dominion tampered with our votes in Joe Biden's favor, where are these Democrats now? In the last 2 years, Dominion aggressively marketed itself to every state in the union. And while Georgia went all in and lived to regret it, one state gave it a Texas-sized thumbs down. Upon testing Dominion machines and its accompanying systems, the state of Texas concluded Dominion was too, quote, fragile and error-prone and could not be trusted for safe and secure elections. So what makes the machines fragile and error-prone? Ron Watkins, a large systems data analyst, tells One American News after over a week poring over Dominion user guides, he was stunned by how easily ballots could be accessed by one person with access to one machine.
With the Dominion system, you need to be most concerned about activist IT people. The operators